Yasodhanandana vraja janaranjana Yasodhanandana vraja janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivragacharya Stotra Satasi Srimad Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se Gausi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Dhṛtarāṣṭra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Maya Burdhama ki jai. Nitya Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Lotus Feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजतां सहगना रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सवादूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादं सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमस्तुते। ताप्तकञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 13, entitled Dhṛtarāṣṭra quit home, text number 18. Vidurastad abhipretya. Vidurastad abhipretya. Dhṛtarāṣṭram abhāṣata. dhṛtarāṣṭram abhāṣata. Rājan nirgamyatāṁ śīghram. Rājan nirgamyatāṁ śīghram. paśyedaṁ bhayam āgatam. vidurastad abhipretya. dhṛtarāṣṭram abhāṣata. rājan nirgamyatāṁ śīghram. paśyedaṁ bhayam āgatam. vidurastad abhipretya. dhṛtarāṣṭram abhāṣata. rājan nirgamyatāṁ śīghram. paśyedaṁ bhayam āgatam. Bolo. Vidurastad abhipretya. dhṛtarāṣṭram abhāṣata. Vidurastad abhipretya. dhṛtarāṣṭram abhāṣata. rājan nirgamyatāṁ śīghram. paśyedaṁ bhayam āgatam. Vaishnavis. viduras abhipretya dhṛtarāṣṭram abhāṣata rājan nirgamyatāṁ śīghram paśyedaṁ bhayam āgatam. Vidura, Mahātmā Vidura, that abhipretya, knowing it well, dhṛtarāṣṭram, unto dhṛtarāṣṭra, abhāṣata, said, rājan, O king, nirgamyatāṁ, please get out immediately. Śīghram, without the least delay. Paśya, just see. Idam, this. Bhayam, fear. Āgatam, already arrived. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mahātmā Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhṛtarāṣṭra, saying, My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Purport. Cruel death cares for none, be he Dhṛtarāṣṭra or even Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira. Therefore, spiritual instruction, as was given to all Dhṛtarāṣṭra, was equally applicable to younger Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira. As a matter of fact, everyone in the royal palace, including the king and his brothers and mother, was raptly attending the lectures. But it was known to Vidura that his instructions were especially meant for Dhṛtarāṣṭra, who was too materialistic. The word rājan is especially addressed to Dhṛtarāṣṭra significantly. Dhṛtarāṣṭra was the eldest son of his father, and therefore, according to law, he was to be installed on the throne of Hastināpura. But he was blind from birth. He was disqualified from his rightful claim. But he could not forget the bereavement, and his disappointment was somewhat compensated after the death of Pandu, his younger brother. His younger brother left behind him some minor children, and Dhṛtarāṣṭra became the natural guardian of them. But at heart, he wanted to become the factual king and hand the kingdom over to his sons, headed by Duryodhana. With all these imperial ambitions, Dhṛtarāṣṭra wanted to become a king, and he contrived all sorts of intrigues in consultation with his brother-in-law, Shakuni. But everything failed by the will of the Lord, and at the last stage, even after losing everything, men and money, he wanted to remain as king, being the eldest uncle of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira. Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, as a matter of duty, maintained Dhṛtarāṣṭra in royal honor, and Dhṛtarāṣṭra was happily passing away his numbered days in the illusion of being a king or the royal uncle of King Yudhiṣṭhira. Vidura, as a saint and as the duty-bound, affectionate youngest brother of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, wanted to awaken Dhṛtarāṣṭra from his slumber of disease and old age. Vidura therefore sarcastically addressed Dhṛtarāṣṭra as the king, which he was actually not. Everyone is the servant of eternal time, and therefore no one can be king in this material world. King means the person who can order. The celebrated English king wanted to order time and tide, but the time and tide refused to obey his order. Therefore, one is a false king in the material world, and Dhṛtarāṣṭra was particularly reminded of this false position and of the factual fearful happenings which had already approached him at that time. Vidura asked him to get out immediately if he wanted to be saved from the fearful situation which was approaching him fast. He did not ask Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira that in that way because he knew that a king like Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira is aware of all the fearful situations of this flimsy world and will take care of himself in due course, even though Vidura might not be present at that time. So it's very interesting succession of events that take place, and here Vidura is coming back to the kingdom after a long time. He's been away for like 38 years. His relatives were thinking that he may even have left this world. And how he left is a very instructive story in the Bhagavatam, and it gives us an indication of the kind of realization that Vidura is speaking from. Because he's coming and he's telling Dhṛtarāṣṭra, get out immediately. Just get out. Give it all up. Like it's been mentioned before, he's under the illusion of being the king and the illusion of being the controller. And he has been like pursuing this as ambition for so long and being defeated in so many ways. First of all, by being blinded, he couldn't do it. Then when his brother left this world, he still also wanted to, usurp the kingdom by putting his sons on the throne, and that also failed. Now he is living at the expense of those who actually killed his sons. Bhima drank all the blood of his sons, and he is eating his remnants. So it's a very embarrassing situation. And in many ways, this is the situation of every conditioned soul in the material world. We've been defeated in so many ways, but to give up this hope, this false hope that things will work out. There is a famous story of and we keep postponing to take up Krishna consciousness seriously, because this is what the instruction is here. It's like, get out immediately. You are here, you are just in a fearful condition. You are taking shelter of false shelter, basically. Like the Bhagavatam describes, like false soldiers. These things everything will fall apart. Like later on, it will say your teeth are falling apart. You are losing your sight. Everything is going, and you're still hanging on to all these things. Still hanging on. Get out immediately. Take up Krishna consciousness. And this is the message for all of us. We are still also like hanging on to so many false shelter. Dhṛtarāṣṭra, Prabhupada says, Maya is Dhṛtarāṣṭra, it's false shelter, because it shows that it's gonna be some happiness, some relief, but it isn't. Things don't get better. Do they get better, Prabhu, as we grow older? You are older than I am. Does life get easier as we grow older? It does. Huh? Happiness just around the corner. I'll just get it, right? I'll just get it. Just almost, yeah. If only if, right? If only this happens, right? And we just go on. There's a famous story when Krishna wanted to. Narada Muni was feeling so sorrowful for the condition of the living entities in the material world. And then he went to Lord Vishnu and said, they're suffering so much, why don't you just deliver them? And Lord Vishnu said, you don't understand. It's okay, I'll tell you what, you can go to the material world and you pick up any person, whoever you want, you just go for him and tell him, please, he says that Lord Vishnu said that you can come back with me today, back to Vaikuntha. So Narada Muni, he was so excited and so happy, and Lord Vishnu is so merciful. He paid obeisances and he went to the material world and he found Sailesh. And he went to Sailesh and he said, Sailesh, Narada Muni, he paid obeisances. Narada Muni, oh, Vanchakalpatarubhyaścha. Where are you coming from? I said, I'm coming from Vaikuntha. And he said, well, Lord Vishnu actually told me that you can come back with me today, right now. Just give it all up. Come. We can go to Vaikuntha. And Sailesh was like, wow, the Lord is so merciful. I just got married, what's going to happen to my wife? Let me just kind of settle, make sure that she's going to be properly taken care. You come back in 1 year, and then I'll go back home with you. So Narada Muni was like, okay, I'll come back in 1 year. So he comes back after 1 year, and then, Narada Muni says, yeah, are you ready to come back with me now? My wife got pregnant now, I cannot just leave it behind, I have to, so the story goes on, you can imagine. And he comes back after 1 year and, I have to look for the education. So eventually, it was time for him to leave this world, and he died. And he was so attached to his family and to his, family, and his house, that he took birth as a dog in the same house, And then Narada Muni came and he pulled out his ear and he said, hey, Sailesh, you remember me? Narada Muni. But Lord Vishnu, he says he wants you to go back. You can come back with me now. Wow, I have to protect this home, So this is the stubbornness. I mean, we can laugh, but actually we could introspect, also that how much are we really ready to actually go back home, back to Godhead. Because Prabhupada explains in a purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam that actually most of us don't want to go back home, back to Godhead. If we would and it says Krishna actually, he wants us to go back home, back to Godhead more than we want. So what's holding us back? So, as I was saying, it's very nice how everything happens, that Vidura actually, just prior to the battle of Kurukshetra, he was, Dhṛtarāṣṭra called him to get advice from him, because Vidura was very, very wise. Actually, Vidura is Yamaraj, right? So he was very, very wise, and Dhṛtarāṣṭra asked him for advice, and Vidura said, you must return the chair to the Pandavas immediately. You are maintaining the son of irreligion here. Give back the kingdom to the Pandavas. And Duryodhana, he was there, and he became furious. His lip was trembling. He was so angry, and he said, who he thinks he is, this kept son of a mistress. He's betraying the very same people who are feeding him. He says, throw him out of the palace and leave him only with his breath. Now, Vidura, what was Vidura's response to that? Did he hang on, try to fight back, try to resist what was happening? He immediately left the palace, put his bow and arrow on the door, and never came back until now. He left it all behind. He saw that as an opportunity for him to perfect his Krishna consciousness. He saw how his circumstances were favorable for him to go, to come closer to Krishna, because he was living in the palace. There was all this politics going on. There was all these intrigues. We was living with the Kauravas. Okay, let's get out, go on pilgrimage, and I can purify myself. And that's what he did. He went for like 38 years. He never saw Krishna again. That also, living meant that. He never saw Krishna again. He left all his opulence, everything behind as a young man. So he did what he is asking Dhṛtarāṣṭra to do. And it is very instructive. And the thing is that here Prabhupada is mentioned that fear has already overtaken you. Right? Fear has already overtaken you. And what is fear? Where does fear come from? Attachment. Yeah. It comes from a lack of Krishna consciousness. It comes from thinking ourselves to be independent from the Lord. This is a famous verse in the Bhagavatam. Bhayam dvitiya vinivesata syat ishat apetasya vipareyo smriti. It says that fear, that frightful condition, comes when we actually identify with the material body and mind. We identify with matter. And we don't see Krishna. We become disconnected from Krishna. It's like we become absorbed in duality. And due to attachment, due to absorption in the material energy, we become fearful because we see something else apart from the Lord. Someone who is in Krishna consciousness, he is seeing the Lord in every situation. He is seeing the Lord everywhere. So therefore he is abhayam. He is fearless. Like in the case of Vidura, when this situation happens, he saw Krishna in that situation. Right? You put yourself on his shoes. You are like an advisor in the kingdom, living in a palace. And one nephew, which is younger brother, immature, the son of his brother, immature, for no reason, really, justified reason, is insulting him. It's a very unfair situation. Huh? It's very unfair. We feel very irritated when someone accuses us of something that we have not done, right? That's one of the most irritating things there is, Someone says, oh, he's like that, he's doing like this, and you're actually trying to do the opposite. And the person is, he himself, the personification of the very things he's accusing you of. Right? Becomes very annoying, We may become even angry. But actually, when these things happen, someone who is in Krishna consciousness, like Vidura, he sees that actually, this is an arrangement by the Lord. What is the Lord trying to teach me in this situation? This person who is supposedly acting as an aggressor, he is not my enemy. He is only the agent of my karma. And I should not become upset with this person. I should see what Krishna is teaching me, instructing me with this. Therefore I'm fearless. I'm not disturbed because I'm seeing Krishna in this situation. There was one pastime with Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He was being attacked by some children. They were throwing him stones, and he went and said, and he was kind of tolerating. At one point he said, like, Krishna, you stop doing this. Krishna. He wasn't seeing the children doing this. Krishna, you little boy, little rascal, why you treat me like this? Right? You catch it? Or no? It's, wherever something happens to us, we should see that Krishna is behind it. And if we see it like this, then we are fearless. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita we hear that the first quality of a sannyasi is that fearless, I shall never be alone. Now the opposite of this is the situation with with Dhṛtarāṣṭra. What is he absorbing through his whole life? He's so absorbed in the false conception that I am the king, I am the controller. And like in this instance, Prabhupada is referring to in the purport, he's saying that, he's telling, Vidura is saying, "O king," in a kind of sarcastic way, "O king," Because we are not, you're such a fool. You're living at the expense of the very people who killed your children. Still hanging on to this attachment to enjoy the false happiness of this material world. Get out. Just give it all up. Take up Krishna consciousness. This is the and as I said, Vidura, after all those years, he left, and then actually he found out about Krishna leaving this world. He met with Uddhava, and sometimes we are being told that Krishna, we have to think of Krishna at the time of death. Right? That's the final test. But who was Krishna thinking of when he left this world? Who was Krishna thinking of when he left this world? Do you know? Anyone? Vidura. So how exalted and how dear was Vidura to the Lord? He protected the Pandavas. He like he's explained, he did so much. He was so dear to the Pandavas. Actually, it was like a real father. And Krishna, even though by making that sacrifice of living, he never saw him again. Krishna was thinking of him. And then when he came back, he inquired from Uddhava in regards to what Krishna said when he left. And Uddhava said, "Well, actually, I'm younger than you, so you please." Maitreya was here also, so you please take instructions from Maitreya. He was not far. So that's like a long conversation that takes place in the Bhagavatam between Maitreya and Vidura in the 3rd canto and the 4th cantos. But now, this is taking place before in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And why is this taking place? Well, okay, anyway, Vidura comes back. And what is the only intention of Vidura in coming back to the palace? Is he taking revenge? He's now saying, you fool, look, you deserve to be in this situation, how much I had to suffer, I had to go. No, this is the body's compassion. That even though he actually, Dhṛtarāṣṭra didn't really actually stood up for Vidura when he could have done. He just left Duryodhana to insult him. Still, Vidura had so much affection for his brother that he only wanted to come to help him. He felt that was his duty to protect Dhṛtarāṣṭra. So we see in the consciousness of Vidura so many nice, very practical instructions that we can implement in our lives right now, today. Being and this point of giving up this fear due to attachment, due to identification, circumstances, situations, and we kind of complain or we blame the situation, rather than actually taking responsibility for what is happening. Taking responsibility. What is it that Krishna is trying to teach me in this situation? How am I responding to this situation? It is determined not on what is happening to me. It is determined by what's in me. If I am responding with anger to some provocation, where is the anger coming from? Is the anger coming from the other person? Some other person may be in the same situation that you are, and you respond in a different way, and he responds in a different way. So that's within us. So that's the things that we need to work on when a situation like this, some provocation comes. That we should be grateful to that person. He's showing me, or she's showing me, what's in my heart, so I can get rid of it. I can work on it. I heard something nice the other day. There was this monk, he was doing some meditation in a boat, and he had gone in the middle of the lake just to not be disturbed by anyone. So he was doing his meditation. And then he had his eyes closed, and he just was deeply absorbed. And then another boat knocked his boat. And he was like, I go even here in the middle of the lake, and still someone comes and bothers me, He became so angry, And he opened his eyes, and he saw that the other boat was empty. There was no one on the boat, So similarly, when we see that these things happen to us, we should see that actually it's an empty boat. It's Krishna, I remember some years back I was in Spain, and I was in the farm, and the farm is in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, So the postman comes by himself just there to deliver the letters and that. So I was outside chanting, and the postman came, and he said, I got a letter for such and such. Is he here? I said, I don't know. And I said, well, can I give you the letter? And he said, you have to sign it. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, it's a fine. And I said, I'm not signing it. You find him, So we found him. But I was thinking to myself, say I sign the letter, right? And I give the letter to this devotee, this person. And then this devotee, he just gets all angry on me. He said, whoa, why you sign, why you give me this fine? Will that be fair? Will that be fair? Of course not. It's his own fault. He did something in the past, right? So when whatever things are happening to us in life, we should see that in the same way. To become angry at the aggressor is like, it doesn't make sense. It's like becoming angry at the postman, and that's why Prabhupada said, don't be angry with the agent of your own karma. So, we're going back to the. I'm discussing this on the perspective of what the kind of consciousness that Vidura is preaching to Dhṛtarāṣṭra, and that we have to give up that fear. Just see how fear has overtaken you. This is what's preventing you from actually fulfilling the purpose of your life, from fulfilling your life's mission. This is the problem. And this fear, we give up that fear when we actually take responsibility for our lives. Like people, like I said, people try to enjoy material life until the very fag end. But we see how, like Prabhupada, another very important point is making, it says that cruel death cares for none. And he's relating the story of a famous king who actually, this king, he actually went to the sea, and he sat down on a very high elevated platform on a throne, and he ordered the ocean to stop the tide. How foolish. But of course the ocean didn't respond, and he came. The tide in England sometimes goes really up, and he was defeated. So we should stop trying to adjust the material world for my enjoyment, and really take to Krishna consciousness seriously. When we're talking about resisting, resisting the circumstances, it means like that. You're trying to kind of, stop the tide. But actually, we should give that up and become very proactive about Krishna consciousness. Like here is saying, just get out, become serious. So in the same way, we're seeing, like particularly nowadays, we're seeing so many devotees are living this world. And it's not surprising. It's not surprising. When someone dies, it's not surprising. But we become surprised, right? Like that famous time where Yudhiṣṭhira was asked, what's the most famous, what is the most surprising this on this world? It's that people are dying, and people think that they're not going to die. We are under this illusion that actually, no, I have a long way to go. But we're seeing now that some, devotees may be living at an early age, so in a very unexpected way, healthy, in a very healthy condition. So therefore, we should become serious about Krishna consciousness. And we don't have to get out, like in the case of Dhṛtarāṣṭra. Dhṛtarāṣṭra he was in a situation, he had to go to the forest. But do we have to go to the forest? We don't. We just have to become very determined and serious in our Krishna conscious practices on a day-to-day choices that we're making. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So I'll read the verse again. Mahātmā Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhṛtarāṣṭra saying, "My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Do not delay." That's the message for us today. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. So we can meditate on this. Just don't delay. Why am I delaying? Because of fear. What is causing the fear? My seeing something else but Krishna. My attachment to matter causes me to see myself separate from the Lord. Krishna consciousness means I am not separate from the Lord. Yoga, talking about yoga, it means to connect with Krishna. So we have to learn to connect our situation with Krishna, so that is favorable for our Krishna consciousness. And that's the very thing Dhṛtarāṣṭra failed to do. He could have seen right from the beginning his blindness, how that was favorable for his Krishna consciousness. He couldn't see that. He could have seen how him looking after the Pandavas was favorable for his Krishna consciousness. He couldn't see that. He couldn't see now how him being, becoming old and being forced to give up this false sense of being a king was favorable for his Krishna consciousness. And therefore he had been defeated. But now by the mercy of Vidura, by the mercy of the devotee, he will actually follow his instruction and he will leave for the forest. But because of his offenses, he will not attain the spiritual world. But he will attain liberation. Any comments or questions? Prabhu? Thank you. And thank you all for being here on a rainy day. You are the heroes to come and hear Bhagavatam despite all the challenges. So you are not delaying. You didn't delay today. You made it. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for sharing a beautiful example of that postman. So, as per the example that we can't blame postman for the reactions of the karmas. So it simplifies or resolves the problem of like so many problems that comes to us. So how to distinguish it that I need to resolve that problem, or is it an exploitation by somebody?
Nice question. Very nice. Thank you. You got the question? Yeah? You got it? Yeah. So you see, the idea here is that it's not that we don't do anything. That's not what is being said, right? But the idea is that rather than resisting the situation by complaining about it, by blaming the situation, by blaming the circumstances, I see how that situation is helping me in my Krishna consciousness, and I become very proactive about being Krishna conscious. Like in the case of the attacks, for example, in Bangladesh, it's not that we just say, oh, well, you know, it's Krishna's, arrangement, It is Krishna's arrangement. But what am I supposed to do in this situation? What Krishna wants me to do in this situation? We need to raise awareness of this violence. We need to take a stand so that this doesn't happen again, so that the devotees are protected. The devotee is very proactive, But we do it in Krishna consciousness. That's the difference. Resisting means that, like some, like you can think of a situation you may be in right now. I mean, I'm preaching to myself that someone is nasty to you or something, right? And we may come into the judgmental mood. Oh, he's just such an idiot, And we may become angry. Or we may want to retaliate. But, if we are in Krishna consciousness, we should see that actually, I mentioned it in the class, actually. I said, like they say, when someone triggers you, the trigger is the person, okay? But the ammunition, where is the ammunition? The ammunition is in yourself, right? So, I should see that this situation is bringing this out in myself. So this is what I need to work on, because this is not Krishna conscious. If I'm responding with anger, with lust, with greed, then I need to work on those things. So I am grateful to Krishna, like I was saying, Gaurakishore was saying, you Krishna, why are you doing this to me? He was seeing the lesson of that. He was seeing that Krishna is arranging these things. So, like you're saying, we feel that we're being exploited, but then you look in your life, you're old enough now to have a good record of how certain patterns are repeated in your life, isn't it? You see that the same situation keeps coming up again? You find that? And some of us may have lived I've lived in Spain, in Scotland, in England, in India, in Mayapur, But wherever I go, same situation happens. Same situation. Like they say, wherever you go, your nose reaches there before you, right? So your karma. And then you see that the same situation is coming, and it's not that, that doesn't justify that the person is right or wrong, but Krishna is trying to tell me something. So I stop responding to that situation. Basically, what is in my heart is causing the situation to take place so that I rectify the situation. Make sense? You catch that one? What is in me that is causing this to happen again and again? So I heal it. I purify my heart from this tendency. And then in that way we can be peaceful. Because the whole point, about this Krishna consciousness is to see Krishna's controllership. Not a blade of grass is moving without his sanction. When we are on that platform, you can be peaceful. It's a lot easier to be peaceful like that. But when we're not seeing this, and we're seeing that things are just happening by chance or by someone's ill motives, then we're always angry and resentful, right? Carrying this heavy weight with us. Rather than, the Lord is so kind. And if we really apply the philosophy, actually, well, according to Krishna consciousness, we're just getting only a small token. No? So, these things are easier to say when we are in the situation. It takes time. That's another thing that we cannot expect also that we are going to become free from all these things overnight. It takes a long time and a lot of praying to the Lord that please, whatever it is in my heart, I keep finding myself in the same situation again and again. Different times, different people, different places. And I'm not getting the lesson that you're trying to teach me here. I don't know what is it that I need to change, because sometimes we may not see it. We may not even know what it is. What is it? Krishna, please, you can kindly help me. And then we, in the association of devotees, but generally what it is that needs to be removed is our anger, our frustration, our thinking that things should move according to my desire. So it's not so difficult to spot, but somehow it kind of eludes us, Is that answering your question? Yeah? Thank you. Anything else? Mission Bhagavan Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Since Krishna always fulfills our desires, and then our desires are always for sense gratification, it seems like a kind of a circle that you can't get out of, because we don't seem to have, our mind has been conditioned for accepting wanting sense gratification for a long time, really deep-rooted material desires, and then they seem to perpetuate, and then
seems to?
They perpetuate,
yeah.
They continue and Krishna, he's fulfilling the desires, especially of his devotees, especially in Mayapur, because, it's Chintamani Dham. So it seems like it kind of creates a circle of wanting things and then getting them, and then, how do you break out into having the desire for pure love of God?
Well, Prabhupada explains that Krishna will fulfill our desires in such a way that we don't want those things again. So sometimes, despite the fact that we are getting, certain kind of material facility, as we begin to practice Krishna consciousness, we become free from suffering and we come more from the platform of goodness, and maybe the tendency is there to still want to enjoy, right? But still there is frustration, there is suffering. Anyone here not suffering? Everybody? Suffering to some degree, right? Even though we are in Chintamani Dham, in Mayapur, and we are the lucky ones to be here, sitting here in Bhagavatam on a Monday morning, and taking beautiful darshan of the day, they still. So, how to break that circle, that's the question, that perpetuating circle. It really requires a lot of, serious practice of Krishna consciousness. Because if we are half-heartedly practicing, expecting that Krishna is going to fulfill my desires, then it's going to take a lot longer. But because now we are under, the shelter of bhakti, we're taking the shelter of devotional service, then we are making progress. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna himself is quoted there, that Krishna says that, my devotee, if my devotee asking for some material thing, I'm not going to fulfill that. I'm not such a fool. you know. I will not, you know, now we have come to Krishna, we surrender. So even though we still have material desires, Krishna is fulfilling them in a way that we are realizing that, well, that's a waste of time, really, you know. You find that sometimes you get what you want and I think, well, you know, until we become fully ekeha, you know, kurunandana, you know, like we become fully focused. But ultimately, Krishna is fulfilling our desires. So if we don't want to go back home, back to Godhead, we won't. We have to really desire it. And the way to desire it is by association with the devotees, by association with the Bhagavatam, by chanting the holy name, so that we become really determined. And that's the beauty of the Dham, that we have a lot of very determined devotees in the Dham. That's what we come here for, to get that association. Because they have gone like Vidura is saying, just get out, immediately, get out. He's not saying, well, you know, I mean, take it easy, enjoy a little bit, you know. No, he says, get out now. You just get out now, be serious. So we need that kick also in the butt sometimes ourselves. And we search the association. We open our hearts about what are my, you know, what is in my heart, what are my desires. And hear the you know, the devotees, what they have to say. So we give those, you know, we give up our desires, basically. Is that okay? Okay, I'm going to finish 2 minutes late. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dhṛtarāṣṭra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitya Gaura Premanande Haribo.